recently. What do you make of it?
Well, uh, I think the matter is not sub judice at the moment, so probably I can comment. Otherwise, I'll have to apologize to the court for doing this. But I believe that the CCI, in good faith, has thought that the practices which are in Europe for spare parts should come to India so that it creates more competition and lower prices. But I think what the CCI has missed out is that those conditions of Europe should be looked at in their totality, which means that if you are looking at the sale of spare parts, firstly you have to ensure that there's a mechanism for ensuring that those spare parts are of the same quality and performance levels as the OE parts, because the safety, lives, environmental performances, and the performance of the car itself are dependent on the quality of the parts used in a car. You know, a car is a long-term asset, and parts do need to be replaced from time to time. So you need to ensure for performance that there are only parts which are not inferior in quality. Now, Europe has a very stringent system of homologation and inspection to ensure that spare parts are of the same quality. In India, there is no such mechanism. So if you bring in the European system without that mechanism, then you are opening up a situation where the parts in the market can get to any quality. Secondly, we know the spurious parts which are in the Indian market, always have been. To correct that situation, you need an effective system of investigation and an equally effective system of enforcing the law in a manner which becomes a deterrent to sale of parts which can be a danger to human people and the environment. Now in India, the police is grossly overloaded. They have literally thousands of other things to do, and an investigation into an alleged spurious sale of parts, I believe, comes very low down in their priority. The same thing happens when the case gets to court, if it ever gets to court, where the court has a backlog of literally thousands and thousands of cases. And the court also doesn't think that a case dealing with this is of any great importance. And so it also goes on in the court. So if a case of a detection of a spurious part takes 10 years or 12 years before any judgment is given, and then the law only imposes very small penalties, it's no deterrent at all. And so the sale of spurious part continues, which we all know has been doing for the last 60, 50 years. So that's the second requirement if you want to bring in the European thing. The third thing which you need to look at is, if I as a customer go to the market to buy a part, how do I know what I'm buying is genuine and not fake? Because all the shops will say genuine parts. The boxes will be identical. How do you know whether you're buying genuine part? So the system which we and other car makers worked out was designed to give that assurance to customers that he was buying a genuine part. And I believe that in the circumstances which are existing in India now, there is no other option. If you want to ensure quality of spare parts and genuineness of parts which a customer wants to buy, then he is able to do so.
Right. And your word on the safety, a lot has been made about how safe the cars in India are and the kind of ratings that they've got from an international certification.
See, the cars which we produce in India conform to the safety standards fixed by the government. And those safety standards are based on the safety standards which are applicable in Europe today. So obviously somebody has higher standards somewhere, but it doesn't mean that our standards are not safe. You can say somebody in the world has a higher standard, sure. Now, looking at safety standards, I believe we should look at safety of all personal transport users. And by far the bulk of personal transport users are two-wheelers. We sell something like 15 million two-wheelers every year. These guys use the two-wheelers to transport not only themselves, but also their families. They are great risk despite the wearing of helmets. They aspire to buy small cars to get onto a four-wheeler, which is clearly, even if you had no safety standards, a small four-wheeler would be more safe than a two-wheeler with 3 passengers on it. Now, by putting the highest European standards on these small cars, which are the first entry-level cars for a two-wheeler, you are substantially increasing the cost of these cars. Therefore, you are postponing the ability of these two-wheeler owners to upgrade to a four-wheeler. And his exposure to risk becomes higher. So what you're doing is that you're making it safer for the person who can afford that more expensive car. But you are making it difficult for the guy on a two-wheeler to upgrade to a safer kind of product. So I think the safety and these higher standards have to be looked at in the totality of all users. Europe doesn't have two-wheelers who are used for this purpose. They're all car users today. Everybody can afford a car. So they can have the higher standards, and they haven't still done that. The standards you're talking about have not been adopted. But they can do it because they don't have this other issue of the safety of two-wheelers. But I think anybody in India looking at safety must also look at the two-wheeler user and how to enable him to upgrade to a four-wheeler. Sure, if you have higher level cars, by all means put higher safety standards, they can afford to pay. If they can't, they can remain with the smaller cars. That's a different matter. But don't make it difficult for people to upgrade to a car.